Thank you for tuning in to The Political Soup, where you hear editorial about the issues of the day and political philosophy. Your hosts are Nick Alex, our progressive, Dana and Pugh, our conservative, Paul Laws, our classical liberal, and here is our moderator and your host, John Toll.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Political Soup podcast. I'm your moderator, John Toll, and we've got the usual suspects down below, Dana, Nick, and Paul. And our first article of 3, or actually 4 this evening, you guys get a special treat, so to speak, you'll see. The first one's about Amnesty, and the title of the article is Amnesty is Republican Party Suicide. It's at townhall.com. Link will be down below, so you guys can check it out later. But this is all about the amnesty for well, Paul, how did you put it? The legal aliens? Undocumented? what was it? Anyway.
Undocumented, illegal.
Undocumented illegal aliens that are here, and the discussion around giving them amnesty so that they can apply for citizenship without penalties. So I'm going to throw this at Nick first because I think this is going to be something you can talk to. So Nick, what do you think about this?
Well, the opinion piece that we've read is filled with a number of stereotypes and. The people that are coming here are coming from, places where governments did everything for them, so they're going to bring that thought process here. It's almost of an impossibility if an immigrant comes to America that they might actually learn something different or feel differently about how they've been governed in the past. I think the idea that just because immigrants come here that they're automatically A, going to vote, and B, they're going to vote a certain way. We've seen a number of immigrant classes that support the Republican Party. So I just find it factually challenged. I think it's just filled with a number of stereotypes, and I think ultimately whether or not it's suicide for the Republican Party is more related to whether or not if passage of such a bill would ultimately, de-energize their base. I mean, I think there's a number of red meat issues around immigration that energizes a lot of the Republican base. I think standing firm against it certainly is representing that group well, and if for some reason the party caved on that, it might be something that would de-energize the base and that ultimately will lead them not coming to the polls. And to me, that's more about the suicide than it is that we get new citizens and new voters on the rolls.
Okay, and what about the argument I think that some people would have that it would increase our tax base because now you've got these folks who are working here and now they're theoretically paying more taxes. I mean, would that be an argument for it?
Certainly, but I think the flip side. I can play devil's advocate on that too, and that is that having more non-skilled labor show up here is going to hold down wages, and then ultimately that lowers your tax rolls because people aren't making more money; they're earning less. But I would say that ultimately, I think that's kind of a folly argument. I think that you have more people that are employed. Your tax base is going to go up. But I think there are more important economic arguments in how to increase your tax base than immigration. I think immigration is more about doing the right thing.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Paul, what are your thoughts on this one? I suspect you have some interesting ones.
Actually, I pretty much agree with Nick, to be honest. I honestly do think that, we do have immigration laws, and, we are limiting the number of people that can come in legally. Frankly, I think through doing that, we're kind of squeezing this off a little bit more than what we should be. I think that we've said it here numerous times. Fixing the laws that the immigration laws that bring people in would be half of the solution. The other half of the solution is what to do with the folks that are already here. And there may not be any real easy answers to that. Because, while on one hand they did certainly break the law, what can be done? And, when it comes down to it, what should be the stance of the Republican Party? I have no idea. It seems like the base of the Republican Party tends to have more of a idea that these things should be limited and squelched off. But I'm not sure. I don't know which is right. I think we do definitely need to turn the tap on a little bit more, but will it hurt the Republican Party in the long run to do either way? I don't think so. I mean, they've bent on things before. They've gone. Even if it's true that all of these folks would, vote for the left, they've actually gone closer to the left on many occasions. I mean, let's face it, at this point they're accepting Medicare and Social Security, and they never accepted that, in the past when it was kind of happening. So it's not going to hurt either party because they'll bend. But,
really, really quickly, what's your opinion? I mean, do you think, the parties aside, do you think that there should be amnesty for those folks or not?
That's a tough question. I'm not sure I can really answer that. I don't think I have a solid opinion.
Nick thinks you can answer it.
No, I think the answer is yes, is what I'm saying.
I know it. You know what your answer is. I'm trying to get the wishy-washy guy over here to come up with a yes or no.
Well, should there be amnesty? Not blanket amnesty. I'm not sure. I mean,
it sounds like you'd be for amnesty with some specific constraints.
Well, they did break the law coming over here, so
I broke the law driving home today, so.
Yeah, well, you didn't get caught, and the idea is that they're going to get caught, because if they want to become citizens, they're
all right. I'm not going to force you to answer. All right, Dana.
I just don't have an answer, really.
Okay. So, Dana, what do you got?
Yes, I think we should have full amnesty for everybody in the United States illegal, with one condition, that none of them can vote for the next 10 years. And then we'll see how many politicians rush to push through the bill. First of all, before I forget, I don't think that the article is, how Nick characterized it, full of stereotypes, because it's backed up with statistics pretty much across the board. I'll let people read it for themselves, but she cites statistics stating why she expects illegals made into citizens would vote and act in certain ways. Maybe they're wrong, maybe they're right, but it's not just blanket stereotyping. That aside, both parties are just wanting votes for this, the Republicans and the Democrats. The bad thing about it is that the Republicans actually think that they'll get some votes, and they won't. And on that point, I agree with the article completely. Republicans will be signing their own death sentence if they push through amnesty. And I don't understand why some of the people who are really out in front of the bill, McCain and some others, why they continue to think that this would be a great move. George Bush, W. Bush, was as well. But I think we only have to look back at in the 80s that Reagan signed the amnesty bill and granted amnesty to however many millions of people. In 1984, Reagan got 37% of Hispanic votes, and then he signed the amnesty bill. And in 1988, George Bush got 30% of Hispanic votes, so we lost 7% of the votes. And if granting amnesty is all that this group of people wants, then their share of the votes should have skyrocketed, and they didn't. So I don't really understand the thinking of Republican politicians that all we have to do is give them amnesty, and suddenly we'll get a whole new wave of voters.
So is it safe to assume you're generally against it, or would you be for it, like you said, if the caveat was you don't get to vote for 10 years?
I am generally against it, but I think that it's really only an issue because both parties want their votes.
Okay, I can see that.
But I am generally against it, but I think it's inconsequential in the larger picture, and I think the larger picture is the stream of illegals coming into America, which admittedly they aren't so much the last couple of years because there's not much to come to America for these days, but economically speaking. But I mean, that's always kind of been my stance of the basement is flooding and we're deciding what do we do with this bucket of water. Well, you stop the flood first. And whether that means building a fence, which I'm not generally a fan of, I think that's sort of a superficial solution. But whether you want to say, okay, let's build a real fence, or whether you want to say let's get tough on employers who hire illegals or whatever, I mean, there has to be some sort of solution. If we're going to have immigration laws on the books, we need to be serious about enforcing them. If we're not, get rid of the laws.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. All right, let's move on to the next article. I know, you guys want to rebut, but we can't.
No, let him respond. I want to hear what he has.
All right, I'll give you 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, let's keep in mind two things. One is that there are factions of both parties that are both for and against immigration reform and amnesty. Certainly the business wing of the Republican Party sees it as a way of getting cheap labor, and holding down wages. On the flip side, there are parts of the Democratic Party, specifically union membership, that don't like the idea that we're going to flood the market with more labor. So,
I think they love the idea because their wages will go up.
Not necessarily.
Because they're skilled labor, so they need to be earning that much more than.
You would see it. You can see a lot of unions that aren't necessarily pro amnesty. So that's the first thing.
I think the unions officially are on record as supporting amnesty.
For other trade-offs, though, right? I mean, that's horse trading. I mean, in general, when amnesty first came out, they were against it. Now, the second thing is, again, really quickly, the second thing is the Republican Party's issue isn't amnesty, and pushing through amnesty isn't going to be its suicide. Its inability to change with demographics is going to be its suicide. And we've seen the last several elections, demographics change. The number of white voters has continued to go down. And when you come out so staunchly against, clearly an amnesty that impacts certain racial groups more than others, it just reinforces the stereotype that you're the white party. And
not about race.
All right, guys. We don't have time to get into that.
Paul, telling you. That's the suicide.
If you Google AFL-CIO amnesty, you get all kinds of stories about AFL-CIO teaming up with pro-amnesty groups and demanding amnesty and all that.
All right, Paul, you stuck your finger up. I'll give you 30 seconds.
You know what? I'm not even going to go there. Okay. All I was going to say is that really the solution to all of this lies in helping the countries or encouraging the countries that are the genesis of these
immigrants.
Okay, we'll go with immigrants. Encouraging these countries to be a little bit more sane with some of their laws and a little bit more lawful.
Okay, so you want to fix the source of the problem, make other countries better. Is that the gist?
Yeah, that would be a nice thing.
Okay.
I can get on board with that.
Yeah, I think we can all get on board with that. All right, moving on.
Like making the money that we give them conditional. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that'll work. All right, moving on. Maybe we'll talk about that one on another show. Okay, so we've got an article from the BBC, bbc.co.uk. Again, link will be below. And always thanks to Paul, because he's the one that fixes that up after the show. So the article is, will Angela Merkel stop texting after U.S. spying claims? Right? So the answer to that question is no, she's not. She really likes texting a lot, like Nick. Nick is always texting on the show, that little punk that he is. All right, so anyway, the article talks about this. Now, the source supposedly is our old friend Snowden, and you can get into the meat of that article yourself, and there'll also be another one linked to it with a little more information. But generally, let's just say that Germany's not too particularly happy with America right now, and our president says he didn't know anything about it. Wasn't his idea, that kind of thing. So I'm going to go with Paul on this one first. So Paul, what do you got?
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, what? What, David?
Oh, I probably didn't even come through on the show, so nobody knows why I'm laughing.
Okay.
Stop texting and answer the question.
All right. So I don't know. I mean, I think she should be thrilled. I think that she should be so excited because, this is awesome for her. This is a big boon. We are treating her as if she was an American citizen. This is awesome for her.
Are you saying that she was affected by the Patriot Act, Paul?
No, seriously though. I mean, most countries spy on their enemies. So, Obama said, he didn't know we were spying on her. That was a mistake. So, okay, I can deal with that. We're not spying on them. They're not our enemies. But we're still spying on American citizens. What is that saying?
I don't know. What's it saying? Go ahead, Paul. Tell us what it's saying.
That's saying that somebody is considered the enemy that shouldn't be. That's all.
All right. So do you think that she's right in being a little outraged by this? Or should she assume that every country is spying on every other country that they can anyway?
Well, that's kind of the case. I mean, I guarantee you that they're spying on everybody that they can. Not long ago, Israel got caught spying on us. It happens. That's what countries do, and even countries that are
our allies.
Exactly. Allied countries even do that. I mean, on each other. It's part of the game. And, it's one of the evils of nation states.
All right. Nick, you look like you want to talk about this.
Well, I mean, okay. First of all, the president's wrong. Let me just say there's no reason to apologize. We gather intelligence on really anybody. You never know what's going on there. So, our government's responsibility is to our citizenry first. If that means that we're spying on people that are quote unquote allies, then so be it. I guess I would add that the idea that I think the article says that the taps on her phone started in 2002. So 11 years. She hasn't changed her phone number once. She's the chancellor of Germany, for crying out loud. You don't think that maybe you should think about the security of your own electronic communications, or how about don't do your business via text? Don't be silly. It's funny. I was reading a different article, which I think we're going to put below from a German publication, basically saying that Merkel has said that I don't know if it's tongue in cheek or not, but she's always assuming somebody else is reading her communications as they come in, because that's what happens to that's what happens with political leaders. I'm sure I'm sure we take as many, our president and our politicians take as much, about surveillance as seriously as possible. That doesn't mean that they're not getting spied on. I'm sure they are.
Right. It's just a matter of who's got the technology. So,
Yeah,
do you
but
think she should not be outraged?
I think she has no choice but to be outraged, because that plays to her own electorate and her responsibilities to her citizenry. But to me, it's all faux outrage, and it's nothing that the Germans aren't doing to the French or us or the Brits or whatever. They have their own intelligence services as well, and they're trying to figure out as much information as possible that will be beneficial to them. So, it's a game that gets played in the political arena. It'll be interesting to see if anything comes out of it, but I think this whole idea of this outrage around, oh my gosh, we have people in the NSA that are spying. Well, what the heck do you think the NSA is there for? Sorry, I caught myself.
All right, Danon, what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with Nick? Paul, what do you think?
We're broadcasting this live, right? Because you probably will never hear this again. I completely agree with Nick.
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Every responsible country gets as much information as it can, even from its allies. You have to prioritize and pay the most attention to your enemies, of course, but you got to gather information. You got to and you have to prepare for every contingency. I mean, I'm sure we have plans for invading Canada if we have to. We have untold numbers of plans for every contingency, I would hope. So yeah, it's. I guess on the surface, my initial reaction was, why are we spying on our allies? But Nick's absolutely right. It's something that we do, and I think we'd be irresponsible not to. Within reason, within our ability to do so without completely violating their, I don't say their rights, but their sovereignty, I guess, with respect to them being an ally. So I guess my question is, or not my question, but my focus would be on the failure of the German intelligence to prevent this sort of thing. You'd think they would have done more to keep her phone secure.
Right. So, it sounds like everybody agrees that her outrage is justified in a political sense, but it's really all for show, and everybody is just doing what they need to do, and every other politician would act the same way she does, and more likely than not, a lot of politicians would probably deny it, also for the same reasons, because it's political, and they don't want to appear to be spying, even though everybody knows they're all spying. So it's a very strange, sort of backwards, non-reality version of what's happening. I mean, it's happening, but everybody acts outraged. Everybody acts like I didn't know there was spying going on, when the whole world knows. What are you guys doing? We all know. You're all spying on each other. What's the point? All right.
I think the initial reaction might be that we're targeting her. That every day the president of the United States gets a briefing with what conversations the German chancellor engaged in, and that she's being treated like a prime suspect. But I haven't seen that that's the case. I mean, it just might be going into a pool of whoever we're gathering information from. Just in case we need it, then it's there. And if say something happens, something very suspicious happens, we need to look back at the records, see, get some more information about what's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
Just like every other American. I'm telling you.
All right, Paul, let's move on to the next article to make you happy. All right, so we're to our last set of articles. So normally just one. Today it's two. Bitcoin, Paul. It's about Bitcoin. All right, so a Norwegian man buys a flat with a forgotten $24 in Bitcoin, which turned out to be, how much was it? Almost $700,000, I think. So 4 years of investment. All right, again, we'll have the article down below so you can read more about it. But Paul, I got to give this to you first. Go ahead.
Bitcoin has risen in value dramatically. I mean, it's not going to always do that. It's going to do it for the foreseeable future, I believe, because it's a very fine replacement for lots of fiat currencies. But it's doing well, and it will do well. But yeah, this is a great story. I mean, although I have to say, I probably wouldn't have taken the whole sum of the money out. That seems a little short-sighted. I would have left a big chunk in because he's already got it invested.
I think he only sold a fifth of it. I thought he said he only sold a fifth of it.
Oh, did he? I thought it said that he cashed the whole thing out. All right. Well, if he only sold a fifth, that's not bad.
Real estate is also an investment. But.
That's true too. A little more of a solid investment in some people's eyes.
It's a poor investment. Real estate stinks for an investment.
All right, Nick. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm just shaking my head. I'm just so jealous. I mean, it's like,
No kidding.
It's like going into your couch and finding a winning lottery ticket or something like that. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, he threw $24 at it, and then 4 years later, he's like, oh yeah, I forgot I stuck $24. Wonder what that's worth now. What the? And suddenly he's in Office Space.
Yeah. Right. It's like buying $24 worth of Google stock 4 years ago, and what is that worth now? I mean, the return is not even remotely that amount.
Right. Not even close. All right, Danon?
Reading something like this makes me think that it's just so easy. Like, my initial gut reaction is, oh, I need to go out and buy something that'll make me rich in a couple of years. And then good sense takes over that's what everybody tries to do all the time. In the history of civilization, it's not that easy. But just the same, if there are any other digital currencies out there, just getting started, let me know.
We'll talk later.
All right, and for our final article. All right, and I'm just going to hand this right over to Nick. Nick actually suggested the article on Huffington Post. Parents' sign makes a pumpkin thief eat humble pie. All right, and actually, you know what? I should make one of you other guys get into this, but since I can't get the article to move on my screen for some reason, Nick, why don't you give us the overview and go ahead and tell us what the sign said?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. In the spirit of Halloween being a couple days from now, a family, I'm not sure where they lived. In D.C. area, they carved some pumpkins and put them out. I guess a family of three with a 2-year-old son, and basically, I guess overnight the son's pumpkin got stolen. So a ticked off mom put a giant sign in her front porch that basically says, to the person who stole my son's pumpkin, thanks for the life lesson. You will help teach him that sometimes people are mean for no reason, and you have to just brush it off. And because my son is 2 years old and he cannot read the sign, I will add, you're an asshole. Love it.
I'd ask for opinions from the other two, but do you guys really have anything more to say? How do you opt?
I meant to tell Paul to cover his ears, by the way. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I did.
Earmuffs. Yeah.
I'm totally on board with this. I'm totally on board with this. There's very little else in the world that gets me as upset as stealing or vandalism, especially. Probably shouldn't be especially, but including when it's just trivial. For some reason, it just gets me. Whenever in my life I've found just a small thing missing and either somebody stole it or that something has been trashed or destroyed just for fun, my blood boils, man. It eats away at me for days.
I'm going to sneak over to your house and steal all your pens.
It will just send me into a rage. So I'm on board with this woman.
All right, Paul, how about you?
Yeah, I get it. I completely get it. Now, I probably wouldn't have used the colorful language, but I completely get it. having a child, I would do about anything to protect my little one, and that something like this is just mean. It's just stupid. It's probably teenagers actually that did it most likely, but Yeah, those teenagers that following that band, the Smashing Pump. Oh, never mind.
That's terrible. That's terrible. On that note, Paul, you're done. You're cut off. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody, on the Political Soup podcast. And again, I'm John Toll, and the usual suspects, Dana, Nick, and Paul. As always, thanks for joining us, guys, and providing your insight. And just one last little caveat: we do not provide financial advice. Blah blah blah. So if you're going to invest in Bitcoin, that's on you. Just saying. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good night.